All right, good morning, everybody. I'm socially distancing with you, so I'm going to take off my mask now. Welcome to the presentation on ethics for water and wastewater professionals. This is the first time that I've done a Zoom presentation for the water and wastewater groups and other folks. I have done a couple of Zoom presentations with my students at RIT, and I've been on a whole number of Zoom conferences and Microsoft Team conferences, and quite frankly, I would just assume be in person with you. And I miss being out with all of you folks. So thanks for participating. This morning, on the first screen, everybody can see the screen, correct? At the very bottom, we have the Department of Health ATC number and the approval date. And this is good for one contact hour. So make sure that you follow up with Sarah. She'll give you instructions on how to make sure that you get your contact hours. That's important. We want to make sure you get that. So what I would like to do is to start off and just give you an idea of what the scope of the presentation is, and then we'll get into some questions and answers. We'll have some fun. And Sarah, you're there, right? So you can see the.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you can see the chats, and I'll let you kind of follow up with the chat conversation.
Okay.
All right. So this morning, relating to ethics for water and wastewater professionals, we're going to talk about morals and ethics and what's the difference between the two. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. So we're going to talk about morals and ethics. And I'm just moving my screen around here so I can see okay. And so the second thing is professional ethics. We're going to talk about professional ethics. The engineering ethics relates a lot to the operator ethics. They're actually very closely related, and I'm using that as kind of the base. And then we're going to talk about personal ethics, the difference between them all. We're going to review the Department of Health and the Department of Environmental Conservation regulations relating to your license, and discuss the potential suspension and revocation of licenses and some of the key items that relate to the potential for either a suspension or a revocation. Procurement policies. We're going to talk a little bit about procurement policies. Procurement policies are going to be somewhat tailored to your community, but also follow some of the state regulations, and also relating to gifts and conflicts of interest. That's a lot of times where there's gray areas relating to ethics. And then finally, we'll have conclusions with questions and answers. So I want to make sure that we're not only we learn a little bit about what we're talking about today, but I'd like to have a little bit of fun. And if anybody's been to my presentations in the past, they know that we like to have a little bit of fun and give away some prizes. So I've got some prizes here, and I'll make sure I get the winner the prizes. I've got a hat. I've got a really neat thumb drive that you can put on your keychain, and then I've got a mouse pad. So you're all paying attention. So the next slide is going to have the first question, and to answer your question, the first person to send a chat will receive the prize. So are you all ready? You're all awake? Okay. Brian's ready, so we'll see who's quickest on the draw. So the first question for a prize: Who was the U.S. president in the first year the Buffalo Bills played in the Super Bowl? First year the Buffalo Bills played in the Super Bowl. Who was the president? Well, it looks like Brian gets the prize. Brian. Good job, Brian. So, yes, it was George Bush. Just as a little bit of trivia, who was the U.S. president in the last year that the Bills played in the Super Bowl? And it looks like Mike Smith got that one right. And I'm going to give a prize to him too. So it was Bill Clinton in the final year of the Super Bowl that the Bills were in. But so who's going to be well, no, we won't ask that question because Bills haven't gone to the Super Bowl this year. So all right, ready for the next question? Next question. What is the last word in the song from the Flintstones? Hey. Mike has time. Anybody want to argue that? All right. Well, so we'll have a gay old time. No, it's not. We'll have a gay old time. We'll have a gay old time. Brian thinks. Mike says time. Wilma is the last word from the song from the Flintstones. Remember that? We'll have a gay old time. Wilma. Right? Okay. All right. Moving on. So those two guys get prizes. I'll make sure that I get the prize to you fellas. All right. So in talking about morals and ethics, let's talk about the difference between the two. So morals, sometimes called values, relate to your guiding principles. They tend to be shaped by their surrounding environment. Moral values shape a person's idea about the difference between right and wrong. Morals and values are individually based. You and I each have perhaps a different set of morals and values based upon what our experiences are and what our background is. And the morals and values are not necessarily universal. Morals and values change from time to time based upon your feelings and your beliefs. A moral or a value is what I do. It's a personal compass, kind of guiding you for respect, integrity, honesty, and ethics. Ethics, on the other hand, refers to a specific set of rules and actions or behaviors. An ethical code is a set of rules that defines allowable actions or correct behavior. Ethics, compared to morals, protects people and provides a code of conduct. Professionals are required to follow a set of standards, and quite honestly, whether it's an engineer or it's a water operator or a sewer operator, plant operator, or any other sort of public works a person, or somebody that's on a planning board or a zoning board or a town board or a village board, I feel they're all professionals and they all should follow some form of standard. Ethics are not always moral. There is just a set of rules for people to follow, and code of ethics are rarely changed. So you'll have very few changes relating to a code of ethics, whether it's for an engineer or for an operator or for an attorney, for instance. So we're going to talk a little bit about the code of ethics for engineers. And I promise to not put you to sleep here talking about the engineer's code, but it really does relate very similar to what we as operators follow. Basically, the National Society of Professional Engineers has put together a code of ethics for engineers, and there's 6 basic fundamental canons that we follow relating to the code that we as engineers follow. So there's really broken down into 2 pages, and we'll talk about each of the 6 fundamental canons. First one and foremost is that we hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. First and foremost, number one, most important, it's number one for the most important reason is that we are there to protect the public. No, above and beyond anything else, above business, above profit, above anything that we do, we have to make sure that we are protecting the public. We perform areas in our area of competence only. So for instance, I'm trained as a civil engineer, getting involved in water and wastewater treatment plant projects and water mains and sewer mains and roads and municipal type projects. That's my area of competence. When it comes to like an electrical engineering design, it's outside my area of competence. I might be familiar with how an electrical system operates, but I don't have the experience to design an improvement like that. So I would go outside and get outside services to help me follow through with my design. As an engineer, we issue objective and truthful public statements only, whether it's written, whether it's in social media, and whether it's in on TV or meeting with residents or public information meetings, things of that nature. We act for each employer or client as faithful agents, whether it's working for the owner that I'm working for or the employer that I work for. We are working for faithful agents. However, go back to number one, above and beyond serving for the employer or client, we have to make sure that we are protecting the public. Almost goes without saying, we should avoid deceptive acts. And then finally, conduct ourselves honorably, responsibly, ethically, and lawfully to enhance the honor, reputation, and usefulness of the profession. So let's pick apart each of those 6 engineers' fundamental canons, how it relates to operators. And regardless of whether you're a water operator, a sewer operator, a zoning officer or a planning board member or town board, village board member, they're all the same, really. All 6 of them, kind of follow through. First, hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. Absolutely. So you as an operator, make sure that the drinking water meets the standards that are set by the state and federal government. That as a wastewater operator, you're not discharging untreated water to the creeks and receiving streams. Perform areas only in your area of, or perform services rather, only in your area of competence. Yeah, so as an operator of a water plant, you're qualified as long as you're licensed and you have the certification and you have the experience and have the ability to operate that facility, then you operate that facility under that strict code and requirements relating to that water plant. And on the other hand, if you don't have experience in a wastewater plant, of course, you're not going to operate the wastewater plant or vice versa. issue objective and truthful public statements only. Yeah, it's very important that you're following a very professional manner to present your facts, and you really should remain on a factual base when issuing statements. Act for each employer or client as faithful agents. So you have an employer. It might be the town, or it might be the village, or some other municipal government. But you're also treating the client. The client is your town resident, your village resident, things, people, businesses. So you have a lot of clients and a lot of employers, and you have to work as a faithful agent of them. But again, go back to number one, hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. Okay, avoid deceptive acts. Goes without saying, of course, yes. And then conduct themselves honorably, responsibly, ethically, and lawfully to enhance the honor, reputation, and usefulness of the profession. So sometime within the last, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years, the Department of Health and the DEC has really made an effort to try and elevate the level of the operator's professionalism. So especially, the Department of Health had started a program of requiring that a presentation like this gets submitted to the Department of Health in Albany and receive a scrutiny of who the speaker is the speaker qualified, is the topic relevant to the audience, what's the venue, how are people getting signed in. It used to be, when I first started doing these presentations, it was kind of on your own. You just sent your license in and didn't have all of that scrutiny. And I think, although in the beginning it was a pain in the neck to have to go through that as a speaker and a presenter, I do understand that the purpose for that was to help elevate our profession, because I think it's so crucial that we have highly qualified professional water operators and sewer operators and assistants. And hopefully that message gets sent back to the village boards and the town boards, and they can turn around and recognize your value and hopefully increase your pay and responsibility. So yeah, I think it's crucially important, and I fully support the effort that goes into improving our professionalism as water and wastewater professionals. Okay, is everybody with me here? I can't see anybody, so I hope that you're all staying awake and I'm keeping you entertained here.
I'm here.
All right, good. All right, so moving on. So Department of Health, subpart 5-4 has a section relating to grounds for suspension of the licensing of a water operator. Now, I took a lot of this information from the Department of Health subpart 5-4, and it relates not only to the water operators, but also really to the wastewater operators too. So as I talk about this and I talk about various different aspects, I'm assuming that it relates to both water and wastewater operators equally. So there's 5 or 6 or 7 different items that relate to grounds for suspension, specifically outlined in subpart 5-4. Selective sampling is one, sabotage of equipment, bribery or extortion, dangerous acts, misleading statements, lack of maintenance and process control, and unauthorized modification of a facility and or distribution system. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these various different items. And I believe this presentation is going to be put on the website for the Southern Tier West. So you can pick that up if you'd like to, and share it with your board members or the other folks that couldn't make it to the presentation.
Yes, it will be posted, and the video will also be available.
Excellent.
On our website.
Okay, great. All right, first one, selective sampling. Selective sampling is where an operator will intentionally alter sampling periods in an attempt to collect samples that are not truly representative. So to make it look like the quality of the water is better than actually in reality. And I took that picture of that lady on the right-hand side, and I'm not quite sure who she looks like. Almost like the Queen of England, maybe. Not quite sure. Sabotage of equipment. So the intentional misuse or impairment of equipment necessary to maintain treatment and or distribution. Certainly, we have to be aware of people's feelings towards whether it's towards the municipality or towards the job or something. Certainly, we hope that never happens. My light went off automatically because I sat in the same spot for the last 20 minutes. All right, bribery and extortion. So an operator accepts or offers bribes relating to plant operations or uses his or her position to extort money or services from others. So this is not just for operators, this is for board members and various different folks. So again, grounds for suspension. Dangerous acts, failure to take appropriate action necessary to provide a safe, healthful workplace or direct staff to perform activities without proper safety equipment. Take a close look at that picture. I wouldn't want to be the guy being the sawhorse there. And again, I've taken these quotes direct from subpart 5-4 of the Department of Health. Misleading statements. An operator gives misleading statements to the government officials relative to the operation of the treatment facilities and or distribution system. I bring donuts a lot of times to my clients, and I never tell them that they are diet donuts or vitamin donuts, but it is nice to see their eyes light up when the donuts show up. Lack of maintenance. Failure to maintain the treatment facilities or distribution system to an acceptable level despite having the resources and the means to properly maintain the facility and or distribution system. So this is a tough one. I'll share with you that budgets, you all know that budgets are tight. There's cutbacks on grants, there's cutbacks on loans. There's increased costs relating to material purchase or projects that are being bid. We're seeing projects that are increased significantly in construction costs right now. It's almost impossible to get contractors to bid on jobs sometimes in some locations, but it's also difficult to get material. Just for instance, pressure treated lumber is next to impossible to get in some locations. So materials and the availability of it, but the budgets, that your boards are faced with are difficult. But that doesn't stop us from having to take care of the maintenance items that need to take place. Lack of process control is another perhaps grounds for suspension. Failure to utilize knowledge of process control techniques to optimize the operation of the treatment facility. So you have to make sure that you can control the operation, whether it's your disinfection system for a water system or some kind of process control for your sludge handling for the wastewater plant. Unauthorized modifications. So modifications that you make to your distribution system, whether it's replacing water mains, doing improvements to the distribution or collection system, do require approval from the state. And there are sometimes, even though you think it's a simple repair or a simple replacement of a water main, let's say down a particular street, where you're increasing the size from an undersized 4-inch water main to a 8-inch water main to improve fire flow, you still need to get approved plans from the state. So keep that in mind. It's not a matter of us trying to increase our work. You know, it's a matter of trying to make sure that the improvements are made in accordance with the state and local requirements and standards. And again, it goes back to that, protect the public and protect the health and safety. So keep that in mind. We hate to see you get in trouble. And a lot of times, all you need to do is give us a call as the engineer for your community to ask the question: do you need help? Can we help you at all? Or is there questions that we can help guide you through the process? So in addition to the suspension of the previous items, there are 6 or 7 items that are considered to be grounds for revocation. This is maybe taking the violation to a higher level and allowing, you know, for the agency, whether it's the Department of Health or the Department of Environmental Conservation, to revocate your license. So the first one, I'm just going to buzz through these 6, and then we'll show some pictures and talk about it. First one is falsifying reports or making false statements, illegal bypassing of a facility, sending untreated water to a stream or creek, or sending water out into the distribution system without proper treatment. Sample tampering kind of goes along with what we've talked about before. Coercion, forcing others to take inappropriate or illegal actions. Plant-related criminal or civil charges, and equipment damage and harm to the public. So the first one, falsifying reports, making false statements or notations on legal or official records required by the agency or department. And the state and federal agencies have a right to review this information or come onto your facility to review the information that you are preparing, and almost to act in some form of a auditing basis to make sure that reports meet the actual conditions that you're faced with. So falsifying reports is number 1. Second one is bypassing the entire facility and sending untreated water to the distribution system without prior approval from the agency or department, or on the wastewater side, discharging untreated wastewater to the receiving stream. One of my very first co-op jobs was to operate a 2 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant. It was a trickling filter plant, and it was just before the treatment plant was going offline, and the operator had me working on Christmas Day. And Christmas Day, it rained for 24 hours straight, and I worked as a college student and took in as many hours as I could. So I got triple time and plus triple time, and I got a whole bunch. And the treatment plant overflowed, and the operator told me, open up the valve to the canal, to the receiving stream, and I just couldn't believe it. But by doing that, it saved the media and the treatment plant. There was nothing that could be done, and I followed the requirements of the operator, so he was the responsible party. Sample tampering. Knowingly collecting, preparing, or analyzing a sample that will yield results that are not representative of actual water quality. So you can't selectively sample to make it look better for yourself or for your plant. Coercion. The operator using his or her position to force another employee to undertake an appropriate or inappropriate or illegal act relating to the treatment plant and or distribution system or the public works facility in any way. And it's not just the employee that that is relating to coercion, but it could be the operator coercing the engineer or the supplier of the equipment or the materials. And then there's plant-related criminal or civil charges, which is making false statements or notations on legal or official records required by the agency or departments. And some of those could fall under either a civil case or a criminal case. And there have been times when those cases have been brought, to criminal case where operators have been arrested and prosecuted. Equipment damage and harm to the public, making false statements or notations on legal or official records by the agency or the department. So kind of in line with that, relating to making false statements or misleading statements or presenting to the public either at a public hearing or public information meeting or a board meeting. I've had a case where I received a call from a mayor at 11 o'clock in the morning, and their water supply was interrupted by 7 inches of rainwater in a very short period of time. It toppled over the dam, washed out the water main, and there was a catastrophe in the community. And he needed me to come as the village's engineer and take a look at this and come up with an immediate solution. So we did that, and I showed up at the village hall an hour later, and there was a dozen people sitting in the room, and there was a reporter, and there was Channel 10 in Rochester with their camera, and they wanted to get a clip from me and get a statement. And their first comment was, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, first thing I have to do is I have to identify the problem, come up with a solution, and then I'll come back at 2 o'clock and we'll do a public information meeting and a press conference, and we'll tell you what's going to take place." And we went and did that. 2 hours later, we come back, give the idea of what's going to take place, how it's going to get fixed, when the problem is going to be resolved as far as we can tell. So it wasn't a matter of making misleading statements right off the bat. We had to get all the facts together before we gave a statement. Otherwise, it would not have been a truthful statement. If we had said, for instance, that they were going to make a repair in 4 hours, which we had no idea the extent of the problem. I guess the key to that is make sure that you're always honest and truthful, whether it's with your employer or your clients, your residents, and the agency officials that you're dealing with, and that'll keep yourself out of trouble. So, any questions that we have at this point? You can just send a chat. Just if we have any questions, we're getting ready to move to the next part of the presentation. I'll sit tight for 10 seconds. If anybody has anything, just type any questions or any comments that you have. Okay. Brian indicates that he keeps a daily journal. So Brian, what would be some of the things that you keep in that journal? Can everybody see the chat? He writes down his entire day from start to finish. That's good. Who came to visit? Who stopped when they were there? Especially now during the coronavirus period, you should really be keeping track of who you came in contact with throughout that period of time. Okay. All right, we'll move on. And if you have any other comments, just feel free to drop them down there. All right, so conflicts of interest, gifts, and procurement policies. So we have to follow the state and federal and local policies. Your community may have a policy specifically relating to receiving gifts or conflicts of interest. The state conflict of interest law is included in Article 18 of the General Municipal Law, Section 800. 20-page summary is included in that conflict of interest law. I printed it out, I reviewed it, and I think it's best from the standpoint of a conflict of interest to have each individual review that and make sure that you understand that. I guess the key relating to gifts, conflicts of interest, and procurement is, are these items swaying your decision, whether it's ethically or morally? So as part of my teaching at RIT, I always have a section on ethics that I am required to teach the students. And one of the things that I talk about is I give them, different scenarios, and the different scenarios that you could be faced with could fall in such a gray area that it's hard to reason it out and hard to decide whether it's a conflict or not. And is me bringing donuts to a town or a village Department of Public Works considered a conflict of interest? I would say no. Is me accepting tickets to the Buffalo Bills game from a contractor unethical or a conflict? It very well could be. The gray area is that we, as either engineers or contractors or water operation personnel or wastewater operation personnel, is that we have to rely upon others to do our job sometimes, that we need to have relationships. We need to know that we can call a manufacturer's rep that could bring in equipment almost immediately if necessary. And so that relationship is an important item. It's important to have the ability to call the engineer and be able to have that relationship and have that understanding of what's taking place in the community. So I think it is there is definitely some gray areas there. And those gray areas sometimes might challenge you. So if you go back to what we learned in kindergarten, right? Some of the things that are, share, play fair, don't hit people, put things back in where you found them, clean up your own mess, don't take things that aren't yours, say sorry when you hurt somebody. I mean, these are the top 7 things that you learned in kindergarten. When I searched for this in my preparation of the presentation, there was like a list of 60 things that we learned in kindergarten. So just keep that in mind. Always go back to do the right thing, and most times you won't have any sort of problem or concern. So I moved through this probably a little faster than I would have if I was in person, because I'm sure there would have been some more dialogue, but we've covered everything that I've anticipated. I would like to get some feedback, on the chat here of any questions that you have, or any concerns, or anything that you have learned today that you could share. So I'm going to hold tight for a few minutes here. Wait to get some comments from you. Brian says, understanding the gray area. Can you expand on that a little bit, Brian? So if everybody can see that they're understanding the gray area, not to feel awkward or worried if a salesman or an engineer gives you donuts, for example, or a free hat or a notepad. You're always going to be faced with some of that gray areas, but I think if you go back to your morals and values, that's going to guide you in a decision that you make relating to the selection of equipment or the selection of your engineer. And everything is relationship based, whether it's as an engineer or as a manufacturer's rep or as an operator, that there is it's relationship driven. Who do I trust to fix my car? I trust the guy that gives me the straight answers, and when my car breaks down and I need to have him come help me out, he comes and helps me out. So everything that we do is relationship driven. So yeah, I can see the gray areas in many things. All right, Sarah, anything else that you want to add?
No, I thank you very much for giving the presentation. We appreciate it, and thank everyone for coming. And you're also going to be doing another webinar with us later, aren't you, Paul, on water and wastewater? For water and wastewater?
Yep, team building, I believe it is, right?
Yes, yep.
Yep.
So
hopefully I can see everybody then.
Yep, hopefully.
All right, folks, thanks for sitting through, and my contact information is there, and contact me if you have any questions or would like any follow-up, or if this presentation will be helpful for your village boards or your town boards. I would be willing to make that same presentation to them. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.